Seneca in his Letters from a Stoic suggests that we should set aside two burdens: the fear of what the future might bring negatively and the recollections of past pains. The first has not yet affected us, and the second can no longer harm us. For the Stoics, remorse occurs when we allow past events to interfere too much with our present. Especially when we focus on elements outside of our control, such as resisting what life presents us. Marcus Aurelius argued that we should be content with what we possess and accept the present as it is. Remorse occurs when we act in the opposite manner, wishing things were different, refusing reality as it is, and not acknowledging that both successes and mistakes form our history. Often, mistakes are not the only form of learning in life, but in all instances, we can learn from our mistakes. Seneca said that we often suffer more in imagination than in reality, suggesting that remorse is nothing more than a feeling based on our fantasies. We believe that if we had acted differently, made a different decision, or expressed something different, things would be better. Remorse is an internal challenge that we need to confront and overcome before guilt begins to corrode our soul. Marcus Aurelius shared a similar view, stating that the problem is not what happens around us, but how we interpret such situations and can immediately transform our perspective. Your current regrets are not about the situation itself, but how you energize unfulfilled expectations. Now it's crucial to learn to live with this. You need to learn to let go of these egocentric emotions and control heavier feelings of guilt. This video serves as a guide to understanding your emotions, learning from the past, and overcoming your biggest regrets. If this is your first time here, I want to let you know that people who follow the channel already know this. This video reached you because someone previously liked it. So, help us expand this chain by being the reason more people find it. Like, comment, and share with family. Through remorse, Seneca reminds us that life is brief and difficult for those tied to the past, ignoring the present, and fearing the future. When we do not balance our relationship with the past, we forget to live in the present, and this imbalance keeps us submerged in anxiety and anguish. We've all heard or uttered the saying, "Live without regrets," which daily appears in new memes, music, videos, or phrases. However, the truth is that we all have regrets and often feel guilt and shame about what's left behind. Those are the moments we think we've overcome but suddenly return to hurt us. This feeling of remorse is like a bad taste that persists in the mouth, making us reflect on what could have been different or question our past actions. This is something everyone experiences, even when we try to move forward without looking back. American author Daniel Pink, known for simplifying complex social science research into practical tips, found that over 80% of people feel remorse occasionally. He describes remorse as an indispensable emotion but also states that it can be used positively to transform our lives. If we truly want to improve, we cannot shy away from negative feelings, nor should we hide them. But how do we deal with these emotions? Should we simply accept the despair that remorse brings us? Samuel Johnson, who compiled one of the first English-language dictionaries in the 18th century, shared in his journal reflections on how he did not fulfill some promises to himself. He claimed that it was essential to continue seeking improvement, reflecting on his difficulties to avoid repeating the same mistakes. He chose to fight against remorse instead of sinking into it. The lesson we can draw from Johnson is that although remorse is inevitable in life, we can choose how to deal with it. Instead of asking, "Why do I feel remorse?" we should ask ourselves, "How can I overcome this? How do I move forward? How can I become a better person because of this?" The Stoics teach us to identify what is within our control as an essential step to develop mental resilience and overcome remorse. Recognizing that the past cannot be changed is crucial for us to move forward. Sometimes we judge our past and actions by comparing them to our current knowledge. This means we have learned something we did not know before, justifying our actions. We should focus on what we can control. A student was hurt by his brother's behavior and went to talk to Epictetus, who told him that every event has two handles, one by which we can grasp it and another by which we cannot. If your brother harms you, do not grab it by his injustice, for this is an impotent handle to lift it. Instead, use the handle that shows he is your brother, that you were brought up together, and then you will have control of the handle that carries the problem. Every difficulty has two ways of being faced, but we must choose the one we can control. This idea helps us decide what is in our power and what is not, what we can change and what we must accept. This is one of the most important practices of Stoic philosophy, which, despite its apparent simplicity, is very challenging to put into practice. We can face the past in two ways, like the handles mentioned by Epictetus, as something that only harms us, of which we feel ashamed, or as experiences from which we can extract valuable lessons. When we look back, we should opt for the second option, accepting that what has passed, and what happened, happened. We must realize that we cannot change the past, regardless of how much it hurts us or hurts others. So, what is the point of remorse? Absolutely none. Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust, offered powerful advice on dealing with guilt. If I had known then what I know now, I would have acted differently. That is the essence of everything, he claimed. Guilt belongs to the past, and the past is the only thing we cannot change. We often judge our past based on the knowledge we acquire later about our mistakes. Remorse truly helps in our life when we learn from our mistakes and try to act differently in the future. If we only punish ourselves, feel guilty, judge ourselves, and repeat the same mistakes, that feeling only serves to drag us down. Seneca advises us to release this burden because if we remain trapped in the past, we will miss the chance to learn and improve our actions to avoid the same mistakes and fall into remorse again. As a society, we often delude ourselves into thinking we have control over everything that happens in our lives. Everyone believes that by dwelling on the past, somehow we will be able to change what happened. However, we need to accept the fact that some things simply cannot be changed. We must understand that some situations are under our control and others are not. For example, if you regret cutting your hair, there are options: try a new hairstyle, use something to cover it, or simply wait for it to grow back. You control that. However, if you regret insulting your boss before leaving work, our insecurities or remorse need to learn that what happened is out of our control. Now, we must leave that behind. Phil Jackson, the basketball coach of the Golden Era Chicago Bulls, talks about letting go as a painful but necessary step for genuine transformation. This is the art of Stoic acceptance, accepting things as they are so they can become what they should be. By accepting that some things are beyond our control, we lighten the burden. We can control the present, we can decide how to grow from our experiences, how to face adversity, and how to use our remorse to our advantage. We control our actions now, and that's what matters. Love your destiny. Marcus Aurelius reminds us of our transformative capacity by saying, "A blazing fire makes flames and brightness out of everything thrown into it." After understanding what we can control, we must discover how to react, regardless of whether we have control or not. What prevents us from facing with a smile, calmly and self-composed, the idea of amor fati, which means loving our own destiny? It was first mentioned by the German philosopher Nietzsche, but this practice existed long before, with Epictetus and other Stoic philosophers. Often, through reflection and meditation, the Stoics employed this practice to resolve past traumas and achieve a greater sense of inner peace. Destinies guide those who accept them, said Cleanthes, and hinder those who resist them. Amor Fati conveys an important message: to do our best, to seize every opportunity, and regardless of what life brings us, to accept it with serenity and courage. There are many people who barely communicate at home, and people who appear successful but inside are devastated, struggling with depression. Living in this bubble of superficial positivity, believing that everything will always turn out exactly as we planned, leaves us unprepared for when something goes wrong, and even the slightest obstacles and challenges in life bring us down. Practicing the premeditation of evils helps us prepare for the difficulties we will surely encounter in life. It can be difficult to accept, but we cannot change what has already happened. Remember that what you have now was once something you ardently desired. This saying from Epicurus teaches us the importance of finding satisfaction and gratitude in what we already possess. If you feel shame and remorse for your past mistakes, remember that what you possess now might not have been yours if you had not acted wrongly. Perhaps without those mistakes, you would not have this awareness and would probably be repeating the same mistakes. If you regret having spent time or energy wrongly, it's like saying to yourself, since I acted wrongly, I deserve to suffer more. I suffered for 8 years in a bad relationship, now I will suffer for 2 more blaming myself for it. I had a job that overwhelmed me for a few years, now I will overwhelm myself with remorse for having worked there. Remorse doesn't only arise from major errors but also from small daily slip-ups. Sometimes, we subject ourselves to suffering even for simple things, like not fulfilling a promise. To overcome remorse, we need to recognize that we cannot change the past. Admitting this is the first step to moving forward. We must always remember that the present is the only reality, the only certainty. The present is the only time that truly exists, carrying all the reality of our lives. Valuing the current moment is essential to live fully and without remorse. Stop regretting what you can no longer change and make the present the best it can be.